Greetings and welcome to another segment of Wild Treasures of an Outdoorsman. My name is Peter Updike, and today I'm in my backyard. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. We got a cold front rolling in, and it's going to be great this week. I'm going turkey hunting this week, and I went turkey hunting the opening day, and heard a gobble about 200 yards away that he gobbled one time at 9:30 in the morning, and yeah, I had a good hunt, and I'm going to go back and see if I can't get on that bird. So I hope you had a good opening weekend at your turkey location, and hope you heard lots of gobbles. I did see some other hunters, and yeah, the area that I'm hunting is littered with roads and points of access. Many of them are flooded. If you're from here, you know the area I'm talking about. And a fella had his decoys set up in the middle of the road. And I come driving down there to my parking spot. I had located some turkeys during the deer season. Was going to park in this particular spot, and he had his decoys. Of course, this is an hour and a half before daylight. And I come tootling down the road, and he shined his light at me. And I want to publicly say to that fella, I'm sorry I came in on your turkey decoy setup, but you were set up in a parking spot. And if you're going to set up in a parking spot, it can lead to problems. And yeah, I let him have it, obviously, and I went someplace else. But man, we don't need that kind of stress and anxiety, right? We need to have locations off the road, especially in that management area, regardless of how primitive the road is. People are going to come driving down that thing. And if you're calling a bird and he's gobbling and he's coming in, he did tell me that he had roosted a bird there, and that doesn't surprise me because I know there were birds there. And yeah, there were a couple of other guys down the road, and I pulled out to the main road and found me a spot, and I just stayed with my truck until it started to break daylight. And I saw 3 other trucks go down that road headed in that direction. I said, man, it's going to be chaos down there. I imagine that guy wasn't none too happy. It's a big area, lots of access, lots of places to go. There's no need to be all jammed up, but sometimes that happens. So yeah, I had a good first day. That's the very reason why I don't really hunt opening days. But I heard a gobble, and somebody did tell me that the birds were really gobbling during the youth hunt, but they really weren't gobbling on opening day for me. It was a little warm, and we'll just see what the week holds. This front coming through, we're gonna be dropping in temperatures, and yeah, we're gonna have bluebird mornings hopefully, and it's gonna be cool, and maybe some birds be gobbling and give us a chance on them. Okay, so I'm gonna be going back. Well, one thing for sure that I like to add to my spring gobbler hunt is that my deer hunting and my turkey hunting all intertwine with one another, right? My turkey hunting adds to my deer hunting. My deer hunting adds to my turkey hunting, even though the seasons are months apart. I think about my turkey hunting when I'm going to my deer stand, and if I find turkeys, I make note of it. I think about spots I can hunt during the deer season while I'm turkey hunting, new points of access, places I can go. And I always try to encourage all of you, as I encourage myself, to hunt the same area, general area, over and over and over again, because you expand your knowledge of that area and not get discouraged. And one of the ways that we expand our knowledge and add to our deer hunting while turkey hunting is the opportunity to find the evidence, real evidence of the location and the home territory of a mature buck. Right? And we can find those things by locating rubs, locating scrapes, but more exciting than that is the finding of antler sheds. I love it when I find antler sheds. Now, I don't find too many antler sheds in my hunting exploits. I just don't. I look for them, And I have found a few, but I don't find a whole lot of them here in Florida. But what I have found, I'll show you. This is the first antler shed that I ever found. I found it down in the Green Swamp, and I had a knife made out of it. And it was a very impressive antler. It was very short, it had 5 points on one side, so if it had the same on the other side, he'd have been a 10-point buck, right? But it's very short, and the tines were very heavy, and the base was very big, and dark chocolate antlers, and had been rubbed. You could see the rubbing that was on. I took it to a knife maker and had him make a knife out of it, and I just was going to show it to you today. This he kind of did what he wanted to do, and when it comes to craftsmanship, I suppose that's kind of what you pay for. And I did not want him to add this extra piece. The handle seems to be bigger than the blade. I just wanted the blade to come straight out of the handle and have a brass guard, and to leave the brow tine, and he ground off the brow tine anyway. Yeah, it's okay. He felt like, yeah, you can't use it with the brow tine. I wanted the brow tine on there, and he ground it off anyway. But you look at that thing. That is a Florida buck. Yeah, that is an awesome antler, and I found it down in the Green Swamp. Had this knife made out of it, and it is the first Florida dropped antler, shed antler that I've ever found. Now we're gonna come back to something here in just a minute. I'm gonna show you these other ones that I found. I found this one in the Lake Panasoffkee Wildlife Management Area. Look at that little old bitty thing, but still, you know, you find stuff like that and you save it, right? And just a little spike, and that's kind of cool. And then I found this one down in the Green Swamp. It's a little better. It's a little 6-point. And look at this. It's got this part of his skull came out with it. That's kind of crazy looking. But there's another one. And here's another one I found down in Green Swamp, getting a little better yet. Another 6-pointer, and it's got nice dark antlers, and yeah, cool. Good shooter buck that would be, and yeah, making note of where he was living. And then this one I found in Georgia. I found it in Georgia on a food plot during, again, spring gobbler season. I was turkey hunting on opening day in the Withlacoochee State Forest, very close to Jumper Creek, on private land one year. I had built a blind and knew where some turkeys were, and got in my blind long before daylight. And daylight came, I hear turkeys gobbling, I called to them, they didn't come in, but something else came in behind me. And of course it was the middle of March, just like now, like March 15th, March 18th, something like that. And a deer came strolling in behind me, and it was a big old 8-point buck, and he still had both his antlers. So it was late, right? When you compare it to the northern cousins, the deer cousins up to the north, they drop their antlers very early. Yes, it's awesome to know that the deer still have their antlers early on in spring gobbler season. How quickly they grow them is remarkable. And then I got this one here, which I found in Georgia. It's a good one, and found it in a food plot as well. And then I found this great big old thing. Look at that, man. That's Florida. I found that one in Florida on public land, and it's pretty gnarly. So those are my antler sheds. And now the interesting thing about antler sheds, and I always talk about knowing the animal that you're hunting, and a lot of people don't know and understand that deer shed their antlers every year. As elk, moose, all shed. Whitetails, mule deer. I had a mule deer shed that I found while elk hunting in Colorado, and I made a gate handle out of it. And the squirrels ate it till it was nothing. It was on the gate right out here, and it's gone. Anyway, that's what happens to antlers. Rodents love to chew on them. But the better you understand the animal that you're hunting, the better hunter you'll be. You're becoming a biologist by virtue of association with the animal that you're hunting, right? And I often wondered what it was that made deer drop their antlers. How is it that they just fall off their head? When we kill a deer in the woods, they make great handles to drag him out, right? You drag his whole body by his antlers, and they fight and carry on, and they're quite durable and hard to break, although they do break them, but yeah, it's hard bone. How is it they just fall off their head? Well, here's the answer. You know, a deer's life is controlled by his hormones. His hormones are controlled by glands. This is the way I understand it, okay? I'm not a biologist. Like I said, I understand these things by virtue of association. And I hear things and I read things. So this, I'm gonna put this in paraphrase. This is Peter Updike context. That they've got glands in the top of their head. They've got glands on their legs, right? All work together. That the white-tailed deer lives in a world of scent and smell, and smells being broadcast, right, through the woods, making other deer aware of their presence and their intentions, especially during the breeding season. And when a buck makes a scrape, he'll urinate on his glands that are on his legs and leave a signature scent down in that scrape. And of course, we all know that. Some people may not, but we all know that. But what we may not know is that he's got glands in the top of his head. And he'll rub his head after making a rub on a tree with his antlers. He'll leave that scent that's produced by those glands. And all this is getting more and more and more active as his testosterone and his hormones are going up. And as his testosterone is going up and he's becoming more and more aggressive, that drives him to find does and to breed does. And this aggression will peak out and start to fall off. And as it falls off, and it has this cycle that it's going, peaks up again, and maybe he'll breed a little bit more, and later on in the season there'll be another rut and it'll peak up, and then, but constantly, kind of slowly, until you get into January and February and it bottoms out. Something happens in the deer's glands that's in the top of his head when his testosterone and his hormones bottom out. It produces a type of fungus at the bottom base. They got a name for it. I don't know. I think they call it the pentacle. That at the bottom base of his antler, it produces a fungus, and that fungus works like an acid. And you could see here how porous the base of the antlers. Now, if you were to cut that with a saw, it would be just like cutting a piece of wood. It would just be smooth. But this was burned through with the fungus produced by the gland from the testosterone drop of the deer that time of year. It's the time of year for him to drop his antlers. It burns right through, it falls off on the ground. Many times both sides being found very close together. That is burning through both sides of his antler. Sometimes you see them with one antler. And then sometimes you see where they're burned halfway through and it didn't go all the way through and they break off. And like this one here, where you can see it didn't burn all the way through and it broke off. And sometimes they break off long and they take off maybe part of the top of the skull. It's very grisly looking. But that's the way I interpret shed antlers and how they fall and the cycle of life for the white-tailed deer. And what's that mean to us during spring gobbler season? Well, spring gobbler season is a great time to be out in the woods looking for antler sheds while you're listening for that gobbler, that elusive Osceola gobbler living in the woods. All right, well, that's today's video. If you find an antler, maybe you want to get yourself a knife made like me. I like my knife, and I like finding and having shed antlers. Love you guys. Let's go turkey hunting. Time is right. and I hope that you get the gobbler of your dreams. All right, love you guys. Talk to you soon. See you. Bye.